The thing is now, it's like I guess the margins in the sport are so tight that you don't even really have the luxury of being able to go home that much because you can't risk the jet lag, you know?
We were watching the first race that was on Peacock, the Tour Down Under, and they're flying everywhere. I mean, it looks terrifying for me. I feel like a dad to all you guys. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like someone's going to fly off the road at any time.
We didn't eat very much back in the day, you know, like we wouldn't really fuel our training. You know, it's like, yeah, you maybe eat like a energy bar when you got hungry, or, you know, a Cliff Bar or something like that, or maybe you'd ride to the bakery.
If there's an objective and it's a race and you got new guys and old guys and everyone in between mixed in there, and you need to be at the pinch point, guess what? You're going to need to take some risks. I mean, that's just part of the game, isn't it?
If we get an invite to the Tour de France, would be just to do the tour, because yeah, I've been a pro for 12 and this is my 13th year and I've still not done the Tour de France. So for me, that would be really my biggest goal of the year.
Welcome back to Beyond the Podium. Today I have a special guest. He's in his 13th year professional cycling over in Europe. He's a former U.S. national road champion, a Tour de Suisse winner. He was on AG2R for 5 years. He is now moving over to Tudor, currently racing. Actually just won their first race over the weekend with Mark Hershey. None other than the Jake Gyllenhaal of cycling, my boy, from Traverse City, Michigan, Larry Warbasse. Good to see you, Larry.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Larry, today, I think we're just not going to really talk about anything in particular. I think it's really just the overview. Bob Roll and I had the honor of having dinner with yourself and your girlfriend, Lisa, on the night, what was that? Night at stage 20, right? Stage 20 going into Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. And we just had a great time talking with you about all things cycling, what's going on inside your world. At that point in time, you were still looking for a contract. You still didn't have a contract at that point in time. So congratulations again on getting the contract with Tudor. We'll get into that a little bit later. New cycling team from Fabian Cancellara, the owner since 2022. But yeah, we just want to hear about your side of it. You know, I raced with you for 1.25 years, and you're making me feel really old thinking that you've been racing still since then, 13 years later. Just really, and maybe more in particular, what's happened since like 2020? You were telling us some stories and the numbers that you're doing, and every year just breaking your own records. And just tell us a little bit about really the big change that's happened since 2020 and where you are today. And then we'll just jump into Tudor and yeah, what's going on in your life, bro? I mean, if we'll ever see you back in the Midwest ever again, or if we completely lost you to France.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's undecided for the moment, but yeah, eventually, probably. You know, I am a Michigan boy, so yeah, I still feel like that's my home. But yeah, so I guess starting at the beginning, yeah, or since 2020, you know, yes, cycling's gotten a lot faster. The speeds have gotten higher. Yeah, I guess the races are more intense, and I guess I would put the majority of it down to changing in nutrition. Like, so now yeah, I guess it used to be earlier. And I mean, I'm sure that you had some experience where, you know, we didn't eat very much back in the day, you know, like we wouldn't really fuel our training. You know, it's like, yeah, you maybe eat like a energy bar when you got hungry, or, you know, a Cliff Bar or something like that, or maybe you'd ride to the bakery, stop, get a snack, and then, you know, keep going. But you know, water in the bottles and stuff like that. And for me, I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've made, is like we just fuel like crazy. So you know, we're just smashing carbs. I mean, as much as we can. I mean, we're eating like sickening amounts of carbs. like, but I think that just allows you to train so much harder, to recover so much quicker, and yeah, do it again. So I think that's sort of like pushed the level of training a lot higher. And I think that's one of the main reasons for like these increases in speed. And yeah, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, is like even myself, I break my power records pretty much every year. But so does everyone else. So unfortunately, I don't really
Stay
move
the
up the
same place.
hierarchy.
I mean, I think back at when I was in the studio back in Stanford during the Tour de France, and I'd be pinging you back and forth. And I asked one time in particular, I said, "Did he bonk, or do you think he bonked?" He's like, "You're like, dude, nobody bonks anymore. You could blow your engine, but nobody bonks. It just doesn't happen." And you're talking about ungodly amounts of carbs. We're talking what, like 150 grams per hour at the maximum ish, 120. That, I mean, there's some big numbers being thrown around out there, and for everybody at home, that's 100 and some grams, 100, let's say 20, and then you multiply that by four. So that's you're talking
Yeah.
480, 500 calories per hour while you're racing flat out in descents and climbing. So it's changed. So you're training your gut, your legs, your mind, everything just as much these days, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I guess some guys are probably pushing 150. I've heard even some triathletes are going to like 200, which is insane. Um, but but yeah, I would say a lot of guys are doing pretty standard over 100, 120 grams of carbs an hour. So yeah, it's 400 to 500 calories an hour. And now because we are consuming so much, there used to be this big emphasis on like trying to get real food. Yeah, I don't know. You'd eat some bananas, you'd eat rice cakes, things like that, and now it's just gels and energy drink. It's like carbs, carbs. It's just sugar. I mean, pretty much just sugar. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And when you talk about you're breaking your numbers, I mean, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here because we feel like we're already going there pretty deeply. But I mean, how much of a difference has it been just in the last 5 years of you personally? Your numbers, like how much better are you percentage wise? Like, you think about professional sports, like a margin of 8% is make or break of winning, losing, or first and 12th place. And we're talking massive numbers though, year to year, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the last like 5 years, it'd be 10% or something. Maybe I don't know. That
Dude,
seems pretty high. Maybe a little less than
you're
10%. Maybe
yeah,
five
that's
percent.
that's incredible. 10%.
Yeah, I guess the thing that's maybe been the biggest is being able to do all the power like at the end of the race. So that's something like now everyone's really working on is they call it fatigue resistance. Um, and that's like sort of like the big thing because a lot of guys can do big numbers in a test, So at our last training camp, I mean, all the guys were just smashing power numbers, But I guess what we're seeing now is like guys being more and more capable of doing that at the end of the race. So, what they would have been able to do fresh. And I'd say that's more like where we're training towards now is rather than like trying to get those numbers even higher, it's more like just trying to be able to do the same numbers fatigued as we do fresh.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah,
being able to do the same numbers on the fourth climb as you did on the first climb and everything in between.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's not only the top 20 guys in the peloton. I mean, we were watching the first race that was on Peacock, the Tour Down Under, and they're flying everywhere. I mean, it looks terrifying for me. I feel like a dad to all you guys. I'm like, oh my god, I feel like someone's going to fly off the road at any time. But no one gets dropped, Larry. I mean, they're flying in that speeds that there'd only be 20, 30 guys, and there's 120 guys still in the peloton. I mean, what is it like when there's only so much tarmac on the road to stay at the front? Everyone's getting the same information over your headset from your director back in the car. I mean, I know it's got to get old getting this question, but it's like,
yeah.
what do you do though? I mean, there's only so much road to be at the front.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the question gets old. I would say that gets old. Like that's annoying. It used to be a lot more relaxed in the bunch. So, for example, I did these two races this last weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, in Spain, and they're like the first two races of the year in Europe. And I mean, it used to be that, like, yeah, even 5 years ago, you go to the first race of the year, and I mean, it was pretty chill, like it wasn't too crazy. And I mean, now we'd be 100 and something kilometers to go, and there'd be a hill. And the problem is, everyone has in their radios their director going, "Be at the front, be at the front, be at the front." There's a technical descent. You never know if in case there's splits or whatever. And everyone knows nothing's going to happen. But like because the directors say that, because the other thing is we all have the same application now. It's called Velo Viewer. Maybe I don't know if you've heard of it or if you guys use it on the in the studio or whatever. But so it's this application where they have like these really detailed maps with yeah all of the roads, the parkour, and then like it tells you all the pinch points, all the places there might be wind. But the problem is this would be amazing if you were the only one who had it, but everyone has the exact same information. So then everyone's getting the exact same information, just spit into their ear from their director. And so always at the same time, kilometer 58, everyone needs to be at the front. And again, yeah, there's only so much road. So, and it's a big fight, and a lot of times it's for nothing, which is quite annoying. But yeah, that's how it is. And, you can't get caught out, so you also have to play the game, I guess.
As an elder statesman now, and now that you've seen this happen time and time again, do you sometimes just say, let the young kids go and duke it out at the front and just sit at the back and truly wait? Like, for example, and let's talk about that race a little bit. Everyone knows those roads, even without Velo Viewer. Most of the
Yeah.
training camps and the professional teams, the World Tour teams, for decades has been in this area where they go. And you own up the Col de Rates, which is infamous climb for all the training grounds. So in the race that Larry just did over the weekend, they did everything that everyone already knows in the first place. So which probably made it terrifying in the descents as well, and the climbs everywhere else. But is there times, Larry, where you're just like, even though directors telling us all to go to the front, of course you want to heed their information and heed, the teammates, and of course sportsmanship within the team. But there's sometimes you have to be able to say, like, I can't do this every time and still have something left to give.
Yeah, I think it depends on and that's I guess like who's on the team and who your leader is. So on Sunday it was like Mark Hirschi, and he's quite relaxed. So that was cool because he's okay. He'd prefer to sit at the back until it's really necessary. So that was nice because then like okay, once or twice at the beginning we went to the front, but even we were speaking like this is not really necessary to be here, but the team said we should, so we we went to the front. But like I would say for the majority, we were a lot more relaxed because we knew like there are critical moments, and it's better to like wait for those critical moments and save your bullets, mental and physical, to be there when it really counts. So like the top of Col de Rots for the descent, like we were right there, and things like that. Going into the final climb, we were on the front. So to me, it makes a lot more sense to just wait till you really, really need to. But if they tell you to be at the front and then perhaps there's a crash or a split in the peloton and you miss it, like you're in trouble.
Got it. Well, hey, that's a good transition to go speak about your new team with Tudor. Not too many people know about Tudor. This is head up by my old teammate Fabian Cancellara, which most people know Spartacus. I mean, one of the best classics riders in time trials of all time, if not the. I was with him actually in Roubaix and with George and Bobby. I don't know if we spoke to you there. You wouldn't have been there, of course. You're not doing Roubaix, but in Flanders. But
No, no.
2022, when he took over the team, he told us about this. At that point in time, it was more or less a under 23 team was getting a pro license. And we thought he was insane, to be honest with you. Like, what are you doing, Fabian? And I didn't think it fit his personality, but now watching him do this, I'm so proud of what he's done and accomplished, and bringing some great big names to the forefront, and has a serious chance of making this into a big deal, and maybe even getting some big wildcard spots and Tour de France berth, for example. Tell us how it's been so far. It's always different when you go from an established team. You've been on AG2R for 5 years. You've been a soldier. You started your career on BMC, another Swiss team, completely different, doesn't exist. Tell us what it's like to go to a fresh new team like this. What's the energy feeling? You got Julian Alaphilippe. That was a big signing. Mark Hirschi, who just won a race. So you guys got to be on a high right now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can tell it's cool to come to a young new team because you can just see the motivation and you feel the energy, and from the staff to the riders, everyone on the team, it's a really nice ambiance, and everyone's super motivated, and it's really cool. Also, it's a team that like, I mean, yes, it's a newer team, and it's not World Tour yet, by name, but in terms of the setup, it's 100% World Tour. It's one of the most professional teams I've been a part of, and in terms of science, they're like really on the forefront. So that's really cool. It's just they're really doing things sort of the right way. And I'm someone who's really into all the data, the technology, the science behind the sport, and so that really fits me as like in my personality. As a rider and yeah, as a person. So that's really cool. So yeah, it's been really nice to be a part of, and yeah, getting these really big names like Alaphilippe and Hirschi. Yeah, it brings like a lot of motivation to everyone, and everyone's super excited about it. And I think the team is really capable of some big things, and I really think in a few years it's probably going to be yeah one of the teams to beat.
That's awesome. And how big of a role is Fabian playing in day to day with you? I mean, for example, at training camp, is he giving like long-winded speeches like Bjarne Riis used to do with us, or is he leading by example? Is he actually coming on his bike and riding with you guys?
Yeah, so we ran into him at training camp riding, but he didn't like join us for the whole training session or anything. But yeah, he's very present, so that's really cool. I didn't know like how involved he was, and he really is involved like a lot in the day to day running of the team. So when I went to the service course this off season, he was there. Had a chat with him there, and then at both the training camps, he's come for a period of time to I guess see everyone, talk to everyone, sort of get a feeling with how everything's going, and yeah, give us a few motivational speeches with a little nice some clips, and it was cool. No, it was good. It's nice to have him around.
And what is it like? I was just looking through the roster, and I mean, I don't want to bring this up too much or push in your face, but you are the second oldest rider on the team now.
uh,
Me, I mean, what is that like, Larry? I mean, you were the baby on BMC when you came over, and back in 2012 when you were a stagiaire in Tour Utah, and then now you're like what 9 months younger than Matteo Trentin. So now, what I mean, being an elder statesman, is that going to be some of your role? Like being the leadership role on the road, for example, even in the bus and even at home, kind of like you were in AG2R last year?
yeah, for sure. So that's like one of the reasons they brought me to the team was to be a more experienced rider to help mentor the young guys, and then also to help the leaders, like because I have a lot of experience in a lot of the big races, like the Ardennes Classics, things like that. So, yeah, I think it'll be sort of a road captain at a lot of races, and then on and off the bike, trying to sort of mentor the young guys and the young riders because we have quite a lot of them. So, yeah, and yes, I am. I mean, I don't feel old at all, to be honest. But when you look at the statistics, you realize you're not young anymore.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling very well. I don't still don't feel. I feel like everyone's still my peer, and then they look at me like, "No, Grandpa, we don't do that like
Yeah.
that anymore. We're doing." Uh, so you're living in Nice, correct? And you've been in Nice
Yeah.
for how many? In almost the entirety of your career?
Yeah, 12 years. So I lived 1 year in Italy in Quarata, so just outside of Florence, and then I moved to Nice the year after, and I've lived here ever since.
Yeah, we ran into you guys in the time trial, you and Lisa, and remind me of the dog's name.
Blanco,
Of course, who came to dinner with us as well, and Bob Roll fell in
exactly.
love with the dog. I mean that I mean you know that now better than you do Michigan. I mean you rarely come home. You used to come over here and train with us in Greenville once in a while, but that ceased to be. I mean, of course, the with the cycling journey of the year, there's not so much time anymore. To your point of the differences in training, nutrition, things like that. Just there's no off seasons. I mean, how do you feel at home in Nice? What is your language skills like? What's the day to day life?
Yeah, I mean, now my language skills are quite good after being on a French team for so long. So yeah, I would say my French is it's pretty good. Yeah, I would say I'm fluent, but yeah, so that makes life easier here. But it's also like it's cool because we have a really nice community of American riders here. So I think we're something around 8 pros. So it's cool because we hang out, we train together. So we have a nice group, and then there's quite a lot of other international riders living in Monaco, so just down the road. So we all end up training together, and yeah, it's cool because then yeah, you have a good group of guys, friends, training partners, and yeah, it's a nice place to live. I mean, the training's amazing. We have really good riding, like awesome roads, and yeah, then when you aren't riding, there's a lot of nice stuff to do. Like I like going hiking with the dog, so we can go just kind of out the back door. There's like a lot of trails. You're really close to the beach. It's yeah, there's a lot of nice things to do, and it's a nice lifestyle. But yeah, like as you were saying, it's funny because when you guys were racing, you spent quite a lot of time in the US, I mean, I know George, especially, he'd go back like really frequently. Um, but the thing is now, it's like, I guess the margins in the sport are so tight that you don't even really have the luxury of being able to go home that much because you can't risk the jet lag. So yeah, maybe like 2 times a year, or maybe three, but the thing is like all those little things they add up, and so as much as I'd love to go spend time in Traverse City and yeah, go visit my family and go home for a bit, it's just like I can't really risk yeah, the fatigue from the jet lag, missed training days, things like that. So that's too bad. It was better when we had all these races in the US, which was really nice, Tour of California, Tour Utah, Tour Colorado, because then you had yeah, a good reason to go home, to do altitude, to train there. But now it's just getting tougher and tougher. So yeah, it's a bit sad because it's nice to go home and spend time there, but yeah, we're it's a good place to be. I mean, I enjoy living here, so it's just fine. But
So in Nice, you said that you have 8 or so American pros there. What is your crew when you go out for a nice ride?
so yeah, we have a yeah, really nice group of guys. I'd say mostly I train with Matteo Jorgensen, Nielsen Paulus, Will Barda quite a lot, and then Joe Dombrowski. He's not racing anymore, but he still lives here and he's still in super good shape. So train with him quite a lot. Sometimes I'll train with Geraint Thomas. He lives in Monaco, just down the road. And then, yeah, other guys as well. But like those are sort of the main guys that I probably ride with the most. So yeah, we have a really nice group, and yeah, there's always someone who's doing the same thing as you, and that's really cool.
Home away from home. What about the who leads the barbecue? Whose house do you go to for a little bit of like just being a normal person once in a while?
Yeah, I'd say in the summer, my house is pretty good because we have like a nice like outdoor space and everything like that. But then I would say Nielsen and his wife Frances, they're quite good hosts, so they're always organizing some events and stuff. So that's nice.
Thank God for them. I mean, that was always my duty for a long time. It's like, "Well, guys, we have to have a little bit of a civilization here once in a while. Put the lettuce down for a night. We're just gonna have some corn on the cob, Midwestern style. Gonna do it right." Uh, so Larry, looking back on your career, anything that you is kind of like the thorn in your side, like, oh, I should have done this thing a little bit different, whether it be picking a team or anything. But and then on the other side, more importantly, looking forward, what are the things that you want to accomplish this year on your new team? Both the things that you could change that within the team, and then with also what are just your goals overall in 25?
Yeah, so I'd say looking back, I don't really have any regrets. I don't think I would have done anything differently with, I think I made the best decisions with the information I had at the time. And yeah, unfortunately, I was on two teams that ended up folding. So you could say that was a bit unlucky, but
Truth.
that's how it goes in cycling. So yeah, I mean, I didn't regret, either of those teams. They were both really nice teams to be a part of, actually, and yeah, they both were great for the time of career that I was in. So yeah, in the end, like, yeah, I would say I've had a bit of a bumpy ride through my career, but I still enjoyed it, and it's been a really cool experience. So, and now I'm excited to be here because I would say at this point in my career, it's probably one of the best places I could be for the role that I have as a rider. So I think like it's really a growing team, and yeah, it's really forward thinking, and I think it's a team that's going to be, yeah, it's going to be really big in a few years, and I like the time period that I sort of entered, so I think I can play like a really critical role on the team, just like as a mentor and sharing my experience, and also, yeah, helping both the young guys and the experienced like leaders sort of achieve their best potential, and then, yeah, even just helping between the riders and the staff and everything. So I think that's cool, and I would say eventually, after I'm a rider, I'd like to keep racing for a couple years if I can. But I think I'd want to stay in the sport, and yeah, I don't know if it'll be possible in this team, but if it would be, I think it's a really good organization to be a part of, and I think they're yeah, heading cool places. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I think yeah, it's only going up from here. So
I think so too. And without the bumps and bruises that you had to live through, Larry, I mean, was it Aqua Blue? Was that the name of the team that you were? Was that
yeah,
what name of it? Yeah,
yeah.
that team. I mean, there was another. What was the other? I am.
I am. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
am
am. Yeah,
cycling. Another Swiss
yeah.
team. Randomly, I
No,
was
no,
on all the
no.
Swiss teams, but
That's true. That's true. I mean, without those things that you had to live through, you wouldn't have the same maturity level, and you wouldn't have the same mindset that you have. I mean, if you explain some of the things that you went through to the 22-year-olds and 21-year-olds on your team, their minds would be blown. They wouldn't even understand
yeah,
what that means, what you did, and like, especially living on a different continent. Apart from that, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I think when I was looking at the roster, only Michael Storer was really the only native English speaker on the team. So yeah, you have that only one other person in common with there. I'm sure the natural progression for your team is just English, so that makes it easier. But I think you have a long time to go if you want to be there, and that proves my point. When I was thinking about speaking to you earlier, I was like, man, we're never going to see Larry back in the Midwest. There's not so many of us, who do this, but I don't see that it's happening. I mean, I see you guys, especially with a French girlfriend, you have a dog together. I mean, the dog alone, that goes a long way. You guys are definitely setting some serious roots in Nice. I don't see you coming back anytime soon.
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Bobby lived a long time in Nice, and then he ended up coming back. So we'll see what happens.
No, that's great. So what's in the near future for you? What's in your race program?
So yeah, I'm home in Nice for like a week, and then I do Tour of Oman and the Muscat Classic just before that. So that's maybe, yeah, 1 day race and then a 6 day stage race or 5 day stage race. So that'll be nice. Get some warm weather in the Middle East, and then I have around a month until Tirreno Adriatico, and then, yeah, after that I'll go to altitude with the team, then do Tour of the Alps, and then hopefully, shall we get invited, I'll do the Giro. So we'll see. It just kind of depends. That's the only thing. Like, on a pro continental team, you still have to get invited to all these races.
Yeah.
So the team raced both of those races, Tirreno and the Giro, last year. So we hope we'll get invited, and then, should we get invited, I think that will be on the plan. So we'll see. So
That's great. I
cross
mean,
the fingers, but
I was in the same position as you were in 2008 with Garmin. It wasn't even Garmin at that point in time. It was just called Slipstream, and we were invitee to
Hmm.
the Giro d'Italia, and we didn't, until we won the prologue for the Giro, we didn't have an invitation to the Tour de France either. So
Oh wow, that's crazy. That was late.
yeah, and then it ended up being I got fourth place. It was a big deal, like, or else none of that would ever
Oh
happen
wow,
that year.
that's wild. Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of things could happen. I think you guys are in strong position. I would think that there'd be a hard conversation to have, and otherwise, especially look at the other teams. But if you continue this kind of success like you already had this weekend with Mark Hershey, I mean, sky's the limit, my friend. Sky's the limit. As far as it's been this time of the year. Now that we get cycling back, some racing going, everyone's excited. But for the longest time, it's some slow news days, and they had a lot of the big news was the new rules put in formation with the yellow cars and rider safety. I know you've been a big advocate of that with myself for the last decade or so. Do you think any of these rules are going to be a big deal in the positive direction, or are they just rules to be rules?
Well, one rule I'll say was in the negative direction is they made this new rule about feed zones, where now you can only feed in official feed zones and you can't have anyone outside of the feed zone. And everyone in the feed zone needs to have a license or something like that. And this was because a lot of the bigger teams had like unlimited staff pretty much. And the thing is now that we're feeding so much, now that we're consuming so many, carbs and calories and whatever, is you need to just get like food, bottles, bottles, bottles. And especially in hot days, we're just hydrating like crazy, dumping ice water over our heads. And this sort of became like, I guess, a big gap between like the wealthier teams and the less
Yeah.
wealthy teams that, I mean, the crazy thing is actually in the last couple of years, that's one thing that changed a lot is we never went back to the car anymore. Like
Yeah.
we had so many
real quick.
feeding spots. Yeah.
Larry, for everyone at home, I get to see it almost better than anyone sitting on the motorcycle. The big teams have a small army of feeders on the side of the road. Every small hill, there's somebody with bottles, and the riders most likely have never seen this person before. They're volunteer, they're hired help. They just have a massive assortment of people on the side of the road, and that's huge. And to your point, no one really has to, unless it's dire straits, you don't have to go back to the car, which we were talking about earlier with position within the peloton. It's such a big deal. So you could always stay at the front of the peloton at all times and not to have someone go back. Sorry, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because I remember the first Grand Tour I did was in 2014 in the Vuelta with BMC. And, we had all these big leaders. We had Gilbert, Cadel, I don't remember who else, but a bunch of, huge leaders. And I was the Neo Pro. So I was the only guy who got bottles. And I remember I would go back, I'm not joking you, on some days like 9, 10 times. And now, last year, I mean, there were a lot of stages. I literally don't think we ever had to go back for bottles. Like you would maybe go back for bottles if you were passing the car, if you stopped, for a restroom break or whatever. But like, it's pretty crazy. That was a big change. So now the problem is they made this new rule this year, and you can only feed in designated feeding zones. And there are not that many of them. And then there's so many people in these feed zones that it's like almost impossible to get your bottle. So it's actually, I don't think this rule is going to last that long. It's way more dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. So stupid.
So yeah, that's not awesome. I don't think that's going to last long, and I hope it doesn't because that's not great. And then they talked about like gear restrictions. I don't think that's a good idea because one thing that people don't, or a lot of people who are suggesting this don't realize is that actually, if you just change your crank, I mean, you would maybe know this from racing the track, but if you change your crank length, that also changes your effective gear ratio. So people could just get around this, gear restriction by just putting on super small cranks, which some guys are already doing, not for that reason. But, there's ways to get around it. And I think in the end, it's just going to cause more sort of discrepancy if they put that in place. So I don't think that's really going to make a huge difference because guys are still going to find a way to go super fast, even if they can't, pedal anymore. But I think for me, the only thing I could see significantly slowing us down is if they put us all on something like super standard, really grippy, slow tires, and everyone got the same. Because
so now we're going full NASCAR. Everyone's got to have the same, the same fueling, same tires.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's what if they want to slow us down, to me, that's the only thing that could really do it. But I don't see that happening. So yeah, I mean, the problem is it's a really dangerous sport. But that is, I guess we're all aware of the risks, and it's up to everyone to try to take, to be as safe as possible. But yeah, there are certain points where you have to take more risk than you would like, and that's just the nature of the sport, unfortunately.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it's inherently It's actually, I think this statistically, if you look at the danger and broken bones and worse, it is the most dangerous sport in the world, professional, as far as professional. You think of all these other sports, especially motorsports, and man, there's 10 times safer, with what's happened in the change within the cars over the last two decades or so. But no, you're right. I mean, within the peloton, I think that's the only way. It's almost to self-police every once in a while. But to your point, Larry, I mean, if there's an objective and it's a race, and you got new guys and old guys and everyone in between mixed in there, and you need to be at that pinch point, guess what? You need to take some risks. I mean, that's just part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's how it goes, So, maybe sometimes I take maybe I'm a bit too conservative sometimes, but I'd rather keep my skin than take a big risk. But yeah, sometimes you have no choice.
Stay handsome, Larry. Stay handsome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much, dude. I know this was last minute. It's great to see
No
you.
worries.
Look forward to watching your career this year, and of course to see what happens with Tudor and your teammates this year. I think you guys have some big plans internally. I know you're holding something a little bit tighter to your chest, but one last question before we part. Where do you want to? What's your? I know you give us the old song and dance, but what we're doing in your program. But what do you really want to hit? If everything goes right, where do you want to have some success for yourself this year?
I mean, for me, I think one thing that'd be really awesome is if we get an invite to the Tour de France, would be just to do the tour, because yeah, I've been a pro for 12 and this is my 13th year and I've still not done the Tour de France. So for me, that would be really my biggest goal of the year.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to win a race somewhere. I don't really care what it is or where it is, but if I could win a race somewhere along the way, that'd be really cool. And then obviously I want to be, a part of some big victories for the team. I really think we have some guys who could, in Mark and Julian, they could win an Ardennes Classic, and to be a part of like a really big victory like that to me would be really cool. Because yeah, I've been a part of some big wins, but yeah, not anything like really, really gigantic. So if I could be on a winning team or help a guy win, really, really big race, like a monument or an Ardennes Classic would be really cool.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Well, thank you very much. Fingers crossed to see
Thank you.
your first birth come right after your 35th birthday, right? 35th? Yeah, 35th. And
Yeah.
June 28th. Yeah,
It
right
is.
after
Yeah.
Taylor. Right after Taylor and my daughter.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
we'll be looking forward to that, buddy. And thanks again. We'll see you over in Europe.
Thanks, Christian.
Say, bud.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.